Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Thank you for joining me again, and thank you to all of the people who subscribe and like after the videos. It actually really helps, so I really appreciate all of you folks. But yesterday, we got some major news in a legal case against Donald Trump that somewhat flew under the radar. I don't know why, it's very significant, but in the classified document case against Donald Trump, a key witness has flipped on him. They flipped on him and have taken a plea deal from Jack Smith and the Department of Justice. Now, in the other cases against Donald Trump, whether it be the election interference case in D.C. or Georgia or the business case in New York, no key witnesses have really flipped on Donald Trump. No higher-ups that we know of, at least. Possibly in private, but in public, hasn't really been the case. And, in Georgia, at least, there have been some people who said that they were acting at the direction of the President of the United States, which is a pretty significant statement to make in court and will certainly be used against Donald Trump. But no key witness has really flipped on Donald Trump until now. Until now. So let's talk about this guy, this IT worker at Mar-a-Lago, who has now taken a plea deal from Jack Smith and the Department of Justice. So here's the article from CNN. A Mar-a-Lago IT worker has struck a cooperation agreement with Special Counsel. His former lawyer says, the Mar-a-Lago IT worker, Yuscil Taveras, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, has come to this agreement. Taveras struck the deal with prosecutors after he was threatened with prosecution. Defense attorney Stanley Woodward wrote in the filing dated Tuesday. So, the Department of Justice came to him and said, hey, if you want to stay out of jail, you talk to us. If you don't, if you want to test your luck at trial, go ahead, test your luck. But it wouldn't go well for him because Taveras is an IT employee. And as you'll know, there has been substantial developments and even charges against Donald Trump and others involving IT. The deletion of security camera footage and more, right? And that was kind of the new charges brought against Donald Trump, which we'll talk about in a second. Taveras is referred to in the filing and in the superseding indictment against Donald Trump as Trump Employee 4, but CNN and other news agencies have identified him as that employee. And according to the terms of the deal explained in the filing, Taveras agreed to testify in the classified document case. And in exchange, he will not be prosecuted, and he has not been charged with any crimes. So it's pretty apparent that this deal took place, right? Because he was very involved with the security camera footage at Mar-a-Lago, and the fact that he hasn't been charged is pretty significant. It indicates, even before this, that there was a deal present, but now we know that there's a deal. And he has officially agreed to testify. In exchange, he won't be prosecuted. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal. I mean, this is someone who is directly involved in, possible obstruction of justice by Donald Trump and even Walt Nauta. So he'll have a lot to say. And I imagine that in this deal, the Department of Justice, Jack Smith, also believe that Mr. Taveras will have a lot to say at trial. But let's talk about why Taveras is so significant in this case. Now, in July, we got this report from Politico. Prosecutors said that a Trump Mar-a-Lago security aide flipped after changing lawyers. Now, this is Taveras. And this story is very interesting about this guy because, again, this aide described as Trump Employee 4 in public court filings, but identified elsewhere as Taveras, held the title of Director of Information Technology at Mar-a-Lago. And listen to this is really important. He initially testified to a grand jury in Washington, D.C. that he was unaware of any efforts to erase the videos. But after getting a new attorney that wasn't paid for by Trump or a Trump PAC, after getting a new attorney, he immediately retracted his prior false testimony and detailed the alleged effort to tamper with evidence related to the investigation of the handling of classified information stored at Trump's home. So after he changed from a Trump lawyer, he starts speaking, which I think is pretty significant. I know for a fact, I read this somewhere, that Jack Smith and the DOJ did their due diligence. They kind of looked into why, after he, dropped his Trump lawyer, he told the truth. I don't think anything ever came of it, or at least in public. But, the DOJ works in silence. So there could be something going on there. We just don't know. And honestly, we wouldn't put it past, Donald Trump and his team to put forward bad faith lawyers. But anyway, we learned about this because Judge Eileen Cannon was asking why Jack Smith is still collecting evidence from a grand jury impaneled in D.C. even after he indicted Donald Trump. And that is pretty much why, because there's still more to collect. But the reason that Taveras, as I mentioned earlier, is so significant in this case is because his reversal, him, changing his testimony to the truth, led directly to new charges against Donald Trump that Smith's prosecutors included in a superseding indictment issued by a federal grand jury in Miami last month, which I believe was June, detailing alleged efforts to erase the security camera recordings. Nauta had been charged in the initial indictment, but De Oliveira, who was the third the third defendant, was added as a defendant only in the revised indictment. So that's a pretty big deal, right? I mean, this guy has a lot of crucial information to say. I mean, his testimony, his reversal led to new charges. It led to 2 obstruction charges for Donald Trump and a retention of national defense information charge on top of the charges that Donald Trump was already facing. So clearly, this guy has something significant to say. And he was, again, involved in the erasing the security camera recordings, or at least he might not have been the person who did it. Maybe he was. We still don't really know a lot about this case because a lot of it's in private, or at least under seal. But he was very involved. He was the IT guy. And, his testimony led to new charges for Nauta, Trump, and even De Oliveira. So, yeah, a very, very big deal, very significant in this case. And let's just be clear here. This is Donald Trump's worst nightmare, right? The indictments were bad enough. Donald Trump is already freaking out. We know that he is. We see his erratic behavior in public and his crazy statements, right? But this is Donald Trump's worst nightmare. Trump makes it an effort. He makes a very, very strong effort to keep the people around him loyal, right? He always wants loyalty. He wants people who will lie for him, put themselves in legal jeopardy to protect him. He's always sought loyalty, whether it was when he was president or even after his presidency. And now that someone he perceived to be loyal, someone who has crucial information on him, has flipped for their own benefit, he's freaking out. Donald Trump is losing it. His legal team is losing it. They don't know how to combat this, because how do you? Right? This guy has crucial information on Donald Trump being the one directing people to go delete security camera footage of boxes being moved around Mar-a-Lago, of Donald Trump ordering people to do so, and just general movements. I mean, apparently on some of these security camera footage, we saw Donald Trump. He himself. It wasn't just his stooges moving the boxes. He was there. So, this guy has a lot of crucial testimony. Him flipping is awful for Donald Trump. And I can assure you that he'll be a pretty important witness at a potential trial, even if it's just for these new charges. I think he'll probably have a lot more to say about the other charges as well. Jack Smith and the Department of Justice are diligent. They cover their bases, as we've seen. So make sure to keep an eye out for this case. The classified document case, in my view, has always been the strongest of the cases, although I think they're all pretty strong against Donald Trump. But, we just keep getting these developments that really seem to put Donald Trump in a corner, put it that way. Anyway, folks, we're going to wrap it up there. I appreciate you watching. Thank you again, as I said at the beginning of the video, for liking, commenting, subscribing. Really, really does help. So if you could do that, I would really appreciate it. You can check me out on all my social medias. My username on every platform is harryjsisson. And the support has been amazing, and I can't even begin to tell you guys how much I appreciate you. So thank you for watching. Hope to speak with you soon, and be well. All right, bye, everybody.